Hi everyone. Today I'll be looking at the common rules used for setting text during the Renaissance. It must be remembered that although these rules may be considered typical, there are always exceptions. The text's accented syllables should typically be used on accented beats of a bar, or be accented in other ways, such as by note length, register, or with melisma, the technique where a single syllable is sung with multiple notes. Melisma, therefore, is typically used with accented syllables. Typically, works use a mixture of melismatic and syllabic writing. Pneumatic writing, where a syllable is set with 2 or 3 notes, is less common. Accents at the beginnings of phrases should typically occur on the same accented beat in all parts. These opening notes should also set the same syllables. Despite these recommendations, however, a consistent setting of accented syllables, for example at the beginnings of bars throughout a work, should be avoided. A main feature of this music is the lack of accent regularity. 4-bar phrases or similar should therefore be avoided. Having the syllables be sung at different times across the musical texture is a common means of breaking regularity. The same syllable should be used in all parts at cadences. Because cadences typically complete a sentence, the final syllable of a sentence will typically be used. Particularly in denser textures, however, occasionally one part may continue while the others cadence. Rests during a sentence are typically avoided. Sections of a text, however, may be broken by rests and repeated. No note value smaller than the 8th note may set a syllable. Be aware, however, that certain textbooks will state the quarter note as the smallest usable note value. These textbooks use larger note values to approximate the look of many actual notes in Renaissance music, and typically use the half note as the standard note value. With these texts, all note values may simply be halved to correspond with most modern settings. For example, a half note becomes a quarter note, and a quarter note an 8th note. 8th notes can set a syllable if the text begins before the 8th note group, if the syllable is used at the beginning of the 8th note group, and if this group begins on the beat. A change of syllable, however, should not occur during an 8th note group. An 8th note may also set a syllable if it follows a dotted quarter note. In these instances, typically each of the 3 notes, the dotted quarter note, the 8th note, and the note immediately following the 8th note, will set a syllable. A different syllable, however, shouldn't typically be used immediately after an 8th note or 8th note group. Here, for example, this syllable should be used here. At cadences, however, this rule is often ignored. Another exception is the previous instance where the 8th note follows a dotted quarter note. Repeated notes should set different syllables. Exceptions to this occur, however, with anticipations. Many of these rules can be seen in use in the following Benedictus mass movement by Palestrina. The Benedictus sets these 2 sentences. Here, all parts begin on the strong first beat of the bar. Here, both upper parts cadence together on neat, while the lower part continues with its theme entrance. Here, the top part finishes the first sentence early so that it may enter here, while the lower parts cadence again on neat. Here, the initial syllable is now set on the strong third beat of the bar. Similar to this earlier bar, here the lower part finishes the sentence early so that it can begin the second sentence, while the upper parts cadence together. Throughout this first section, most of the text is set syllabically, except for the melisma on the syllable ve or vanit. The 8th note groups used during the melismata are all preceded and followed by larger note values which set the syllables. To begin the new sentence here, these repeater notes each set a different syllable. Here, as before, after eighth note groups, there is always at least one larger note value before the following syllable. Here, the anticipations repeat the same note without a change of syllable. Through this section, do of Domini now uses a melisma while the remaining text is set syllabically. Aside from at cadences and at the composer's discretion, the text syllables are predominantly sung at different times by the different parts. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.